Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And today we're going to be talking about the stages that your ex goes through during a breakup.
Before we start, I did want to mention that I am now available for coaching along with Coach Margaret and Coach Craig. So remember that you can get a coaching with us if you go to the website and click on the names on the top.
That's right.
To start us out that way.
Nice and easy to do. We're always here to help you through such a difficult time, because what is worse than a breakup?
Nothing we can think of.
It is awful.
It's worse than athlete's foot.
It's so confusing, Margaret. I'm constantly reminded every week when I'm talking to people how confusing it could be, that even a small little thing that your ex says or does can just leave you just so lost and confused. I had a call today with a girl that we did a call a week ago, and her ex reached out this past week, and she was just so confused by it and started talking to friends and family, and of course they didn't give her helpful advice.
No.
So we did another coaching today. But I remember even minute things would just leave you feeling devastated again. Your ex changes their profile picture. Something as simple as that leaves you just like, oh my gosh, is it over? Are we truly done now? So it's normal to go through those things. And Margaret put together some information today on the stages that we often see during a breakup. Now, this obviously doesn't apply to every situation.
No.
But it is something that we do often see.
Absolutely. And there are other people who frame it a little bit differently from how we have, and that's legitimate too. Okay? So this is not the last and only answer. Most of the time we hear from the dumpee. We hear from the person who's been broken up with. But there has been some research and some thinking about what does the dumper go through.
Yeah, because everybody feels like their ex is the one that's not going to think about them.
Right.
Their ex is going to be the one that just completely moves on and doesn't go through these stages.
That's right.
So it's normal for you to feel like that.
However, human beings, we're all wired similarly, and we all have separation anxiety, and we all attach. However,
That's so important, Margaret. Say that again.
okay, we all have feelings.
And we all have separation anxiety.
We all have separation anxiety, and we all have attached, however effectively or not effectively, in our family of origin, okay? So we're not wired so that after you've been in a relationship with someone, you can just forget them, okay? Separation anxiety will get in there at some point. I think a little bit later than if you're the dumpee, but the separation anxiety does come up.
Yeah, I think that's so important to understand.
And people will say, not my person, he's just moved around, he's totally forgotten me. No, he hasn't. No, he can't. No matter how ice cold he appeared at the breakup.
Right. And just because you're not hearing from them or getting any reach out from them doesn't mean that their process isn't happening.
No.
Yeah, because they're having to deal with silence too, and so a lot of times they get confused and don't know how to interpret that as well.
Right, exactly.
So what's the first stage you think the dumper goes through?
The first stage the dumper goes through. Now what we see, and much of the research, all says that most dumpers have wanted to end the relationship for a while before they actually work up the gumption or whatever else it takes to do it. Okay? So they've been thinking about it. We, on the other hand, are oftentimes totally blown away because they haven't given us any signal that they're unhappy or wanting out of this relationship.
Or enough that we thought that they would actually do it.
Yep, exactly. So right then and there, you're stunned. And just think about it. This person has stayed with you even though they wanted to leave, and all embedded in that is a mixed message and confusion. They've been confused too. I want to stay with you. No, I really don't. And finally, they make a decision. Okay? So the first stage, I think, for the dumper is relief.
And it's not a relief to hear that.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It's so painful when
Yes.
you're thinking, oh my gosh, this person is relieved not to have me in their life anymore.
And I've been a drag on his or her life for how many months and
Right.
didn't even know it?
Yeah.
You know, how hurtful.
Just thinking about, like, when I was going through some of my breakups, like, the idea that they're not hurting too hurts even more.
Yeah.
And
They
you-
will hurt later, but you don't know that at the time.
That's right.
And you may be thinking, well, if they were thinking of breaking up, why didn't they say anything? I can think of several reasons. They might have difficulty communicating. They may have been afraid of your reaction.
Right.
Or they may have thought that you would have tried 10 times harder, which might have off-put them. So there are many reasons why
There are many reasons.
they wouldn't have told you.
But they finally have done it, and they're relieved.
They're relieved.
So they feel like a huge weight is finally lifted from their shoulders, as they have been meaning to initiate the breakup for weeks or months, but never found the time or the courage to do it.
And at that time, maybe there wasn't enough unhappiness or whatever that they actually were going to follow through with it.
They probably don't, on some level or other, even though they want to break up, they don't want you to be mad at them. Yeah.
And part of them doesn't want to let you go either.
That's exactly right. And that's why you've gotten such a mixed message, because they're feeling two different ways at the same time. Since the root cause of their unhappiness is finally out of their life, they can start enjoying life again. They see this as an opportunity to restart their life and consider dating other people.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So they feel
not-
terrific.
Not everybody considers dating other people. The healthier people are going to be more likely to be like, "Yeah, I don't want to date anybody else right now. I really want to, heal from this."
Yeah.
And I also want to add perceived root cause of unhappiness.
Yeah,
Not to
that's
say that
not-
all of you out there
right.
are the cause of your ex's
Good
unhappiness.
point. I didn't like that sentence either.
Yeah, there could be
Yeah.
other factors too. That
And
added to
I've
it.
also known people to break up because they were unhappy, but they have chosen the wrong issue in their life. They can be unhappy with their family of origin, they can be unhappy with a number of other things. And lots of times people will make a decision to break up and find out that wasn't really the problem. Okay? So anyway, you feel terrible at your absolute worst, and they're kind of dancing with relief.
Yep.
How annoying, right? This is the worst stage for the dumpee, as they think that the dumper is very happy without them. But cheer up, dumpee, he won't be forever, or she won't be forever.
It's like in the beginning, you're like exact opposites.
Absolutely. They're dancing and you're
Devastated.
Yeah.
Right.
And the dumper will then begin to tell the people in his or her circle about this breakup and how they're very relieved and are going to have a new lease on life and might date other people and might not, but at least they feel free now.
And that can make you feel extremely guilty.
Yes.
You might think, have I been holding this person back? Am I the reason that they
Right.
were so unhappy, and now that I'm out of the picture, they can experience this joy without me?
Right.
That can be extremely painful.
And one of the other things is that you don't want to go to those people for information, because if your ex says, "Oh, I'm so happy now, I feel so relieved," they get this half, in-depth, realistic answer. They're probably just saying things off the cuff, and then you take all of that and every word they've said
Very
and
personal.
scrutinize it.
Yep.
When it could have been more something general.
And chances are at this point the dumpee is feeling like it's their fault and trying to figure out what they did wrong.
Yeah.
Okay? And
Oh, yeah.
And then the ubiquitous third party and whatever other third parties there are out there are telling the poor dumpee that he looks great and he's having a good time and so forth and so on. Okay? And sometimes people just can't wait to share that news with you. Just what you didn't want to hear.
Yeah. So you got to be careful what you listen to.
Yeah, you got to be careful. Yes, and I have to remind people of that all the time. And people always think they're getting useful information from friends or family or whatever, and oftentimes it really isn't.
And what is so important to understand is that the relief stage doesn't last forever.
No.
Okay? Does it happen? Sure, maybe every once in a while.
Right.
But for the most part, people are relieved only for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And then they're impacted by the loss of the relationship.
That's exactly right. They can't put the grief off forever. It's still going to be there waiting for them
Yeah.
whenever they slow down. A lot of dumpers will go right out and have a short-term fling. Okay? And sometimes they even get crazy and do wild things they would not normally do.
We hear that a lot.
Yes, we do. He's out there and he's seeing 10 women at the same time, and he was seen partying at 4 different clubs on Friday night, and
Yeah.
he's out there acting crazy. He never did this kind of thing.
I've heard that. Yeah, that one comes up a lot. She's going to the clubs every night.
Every
She
night.
never liked going to the clubs before.
Right.
So a lot of times people do that.
Yeah, they do. Free at last, they're saying. However, it doesn't work all that long. That stage eventually begins to wear off.
Now that would be the second stage,
Yes.
the elation.
Yeah, the elation would be the second stage. You're absolutely right, where they go out and do everything they felt like they couldn't do while they were dating you.
Yeah.
And whether they were doing it behind your back or not, we'll never know.
Because, we do have to give up things to be in a relationship.
Absolutely.
We do have to sacrifice
Sure.
things. And now that they're free of that commitment, they are free to do these things.
Right. And it's all part of the human condition.
Yes,
I'll be
it is.
happy when X happens, and then X happens, and then they're excited about the next thing that will make them happy.
I like the reference to the human condition.
Yeah.
It isn't easy.
Yeah.
The human condition is not an easy place to
No.
be. No. I curse the fates every now and again. So the person is in an elation phase and going out doing all sorts of crazy things they wouldn't have done. And this doesn't usually last much longer than a month before they're too tired to keep it up.
If they're younger, it goes on longer.
It goes
I
on
was
longer
thinking
because they
about
can
that.
stay up later longer.
I would say, if you're under like 26-ish,
Yeah.
then the person is going to be more likely. And the earlier you get, like if you're like 23, I think you're going to get at least 3 or 4 months of that.
Oh,
Or
absolutely.
maybe even longer.
Yeah.
Maybe even longer. Yeah.
I think on a developmental standpoint, it's almost like a kid who finally has some freedom and is curious about the world. I think
Right.
you'll see the same type of behavior, but in the dating world.
Yeah.
And we do hear a lot from quite young people.
Yeah, we do.
Who are most likely to have the problems and most likely to respond this way. And in the meantime, the dumpee is still blaming themselves and going over the relationship with a fine-tooth comb, trying to figure out what they did wrong.
Yeah.
Not what you did wrong, but what they did wrong.
Right. And even if they might have the right to go out and date other people, it can still feel like a betrayal, even when it's really not, but it can feel like one because you were so attached to this person.
And that's what's so confusing. You're so attached and so intimate with this person, and then all of a sudden one day they go cold
Yeah.
and dump you.
Yeah. It's the worst
Extremely
feeling.
difficult, yeah.
And then you see him relieved and elated.
To add insult to injury.
Yeah.
I want to see you miserable too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I don't want you relieved.
Yeah.
Lots of times dumpers pick up a new hobby or find a different circle of friends. They change their whole life around, okay? So now we've been through, the elation stage. After a while, probably at about the 5-month point, okay? Now that's debated by various people, but it's also agreed upon by various people that at the 4 to 5 month point, the dumper begins to feel a little bit of nostalgia and may begin kind of comparing their new people to you, okay? And oftentimes the person they were with treated them better than the new people are going to. And that kind of brings them up short. I thought it would be easy to go out and find better, not the same, but better. Somebody's going to treat me better and make me happier. And if that's not happening, then that starts to be a bit of a bummer for the dumper.
Yeah.
Okay?
And I can also see a lot of you lose perspective during a breakup. Some months have passed and you already think that them being in a relationship with a new person means that they have this deep established bond when you've been dating this person for years sometimes.
Yep.
So don't underestimate the attachment that you had to this person. It takes a while to build connection, and they are not going to find that with this person they've
No,
been
of course
dating
they're
for
not.
months.
So you're going to come out pretty well in the comparison.
In the long run.
Right.
In the short term, it's tough because they're like super excited and it's almost like they're addicted to this new person.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they're going to bond and attach.
Right.
Okay? Because I think, most breakups or more relationships fail transitioning from those early stages into that
Exactly.
attachment
Into
stage
the
where they
real
don't attach.
attachment stage, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're home crying and eating gallons of ice cream and they're out dancing.
Yep.
All right. But somehow they haven't found anybody quite as charming as you, and they're starting to get a bit nervous and a bit curious about what you might be doing.
Now they start to really get affected by that separation anxiety.
Yeah.
Whereas you felt it more in the beginning because you had the rug pulled out from under you. Now they're starting to experience it over time, but not if you're reaching out.
Right.
Not if you're sending the handwritten letter or the good reminder text or the clean slate message. It doesn't allow them to feel the loss, which is what we want.
Yep. That's right. We want them to sit with the loss. We don't want you to reach out. Yeah. Okay. The next stage is called by some people neutrality, meaning months after the breakup, the dumper enters a stage of neutrality where they can rationally see the positive and negative aspects of the relationship they had with you. In other words, they're not blind anymore with their newfound freedom. And they begin to think about that, and they may be pushed a little to take a little responsibility.
And that's what you really want to see, Margaret.
That's what you want to see.
That responsibility.
Yeah.
That they're not sitting there just blaming you for everything that's happened wrong.
Right.
It's very difficult to try and work with somebody when they're just still doing that.
Exactly.
And that also takes a level of maturity to be able to self-reflect on the relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a lot of what we don't see. Well, you begin to see the realities of the relationship and that possibly you had a part in it. And that means you've gotten away from the acute disruption of the breakup, and you're now beginning to think about things a little more rationally.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's all frightening and confusing now for the dumper also.
Yeah.
Okay?
It just takes time to get there. And this is what we try and tell you, like feelings change. As you can see, as we've explained through this, these are feelings changing throughout this process over months, right? Sometimes feelings change shorter or quicker, but you could see the way they felt in the beginning is not how they're going to feel 3 months in, 4 months in.
Exactly.
Things change.
Feelings are not written in stone by any means.
And that's why we're always telling you to really reflect and do the work. Look at the areas that you made mistakes and focus on how you can improve those things. Work on your mental health. Get a therapist. Do the work. It truly pays off because you can be using this time productively. Meanwhile, your ex is not going to be doing the work that you are.
Right.
They're too busy and staying up too late at night. Yeah. So oftentimes people move from a neutrality sort of stance where they begin to at least look at the truth to a little bit of regret and sadness when the third or fourth new partner doesn't measure up to you, let alone is better, let alone be better. Okay? So they begin to have some regret and some sadness, and they begin to miss you. And they begin to wonder, and what do you think is the thing they wonder about the most? Have you found somebody else?
That's a big one.
That's huge.
That's
Have
a
you
big one.
found somebody else?
And if that happens naturally, okay. But I don't want you guys to just try and find somebody else to try and get your ex back.
Yeah, no.
Because that's not healthy and it's
No.
not going to work in the long run.
It's a manipulation, and manipulations never work.
Yeah, it's just going to backfire in the long run.
Right.
It's far better for you and your chances to really authentically look at yourself, work on yourself, grow, change, and allow them to come back at their speed. And if you happen to meet somebody else in this time, you know, naturally, okay. But don't try and force it.
No.
It's going to blow up in your
No.
face.
Or so it'll get back to him or get back to her that you're wildly happy with the person you've known for a month.
Yeah.
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 It
And
could-
they will wonder regardless.
Yeah.
They've never seen you in a relationship with somebody else actively. So that will be a different experience for them if that were to happen.
But this is why we say don't reach out. Because they can wonder about where you're at and what you're doing and who you're dating all along.
And that's what you want.
Yes.
But you have to remember that he's going through it too, or she's going through it too if they were the breaker-upper. All right? So after a while of finding out that there isn't somebody they can find easily who's better than you, they begin to experience some regret and some sadness and some nostalgia. They really begin to miss you. So when they begin to realize what they're missing, they have to think about what to do. Now, they thought they had made the right decision back there, but now their feelings are telling them different.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're probably getting scared.
And they're exactly. And then they begin to get anxious and ponders what they should do. And wondering if there was something they could have done to prevent the breakup.
That's right.
So they're forced to take some responsibility, at least to look at it.
And now a lot of the things that they're blaming you for, or they had been blaming you for, they're starting to see those things weren't as big of a deal as I made them out to be. And wow, I really contributed to our breakup too.
Right. And you want them to experience that if you are going to have a healthy relationship.
Yes, you
in the
do.
future.
Yep.
And if they're healthy enough, they begin to say, well, maybe I wasn't perfect either. Okay?
Yep.
And that's a stage of enlightenment. That's real progress for the dumper. At this point, the dumper may send subliminal messages to his or her ex to test the waters to see if the dumpee holds any hard feelings. So now they begin to wonder if you're mad at them, if you'll talk to them. So they somehow want, and I think
They do the indirect, direct
they do-
approach.
yes. And everyone remembers that it's the cat
Yeah.
that they call to act.
I
ask about-
constantly get comments on the YouTube. You're not going to believe it. It was the cat.
It was the cat, yep.
Yep. So what is the indirect direct? Well, if you're new to the channel and you don't know what it is, the indirect direct is what I call when somebody sends you a message, they're not direct by saying something like, I miss you. They're indirect in their approach, and they say something like, and we see this a lot, I miss the cat.
I missed the cat. I wanted to
It
know
is
how
the
cat was
number
doing.
one we see.
Right.
Who knows why? But I started seeing it years ago, coming up over and over and over again. And I couldn't believe it.
Not the dog, not the goldfish,
The
but
cat.
the cat. Yep.
Or they'll be like asking you about an item or something that they know you don't really have, but they'll ask you about it.
Do you have my ballet shoes?
Yeah. Or what was the name of the restaurant we went to that time with your brother?
Or asking you for a favor.
Yeah. Yes.
Could you fill up the air in my tires? Something along those
Yeah.
lines.
Yeah. They are going to do something to make contact with you, but because they're scared of rejection, they're not going to be direct about it. They're indirect.
Right.
Unfortunately, their anxiety and discomfort isn't quite as severe as the initial shock was to the dumpee.
Yeah.
But it is painful enough and should be some consolation to the dumpee that they didn't get over this scot-free, you know. And it's perfectly all right to be subtly pleased that they're missing you.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely enjoy it.
It always feels validating
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
when you find out, oh, they missed me.
Absolutely. And if the dumper realizes that you really have moved on, then they're really pretty depressed and pretty desperate.
Yeah.
Okay? In order for the dumper to have an epiphany, the dumpee has to avoid making post-breakup mistakes, such as begging, pleading, or making a lot of contact.
And if you did it, you got to do your best to stop
Yeah.
right
Stop
now.
doing it. Don't
If-
apologize. Don't do anything.
Just
like
leave
that.
them alone.
Leave
Right.
them alone and let them sit with it.
They need to really feel the loss of you in their life. But, you know, everybody goes through this at different stages, at different speeds, depending upon the relationship, why it didn't work. There's tons of different factors.
sure.
This is just generally what we see
Yep.
oftentimes.
Yep.
But obviously, your situation is going to be unique in different ways. And that's why we do coachings to talk to you about this stuff. Because it's so confusing when you have anything like this happen. The indirect directs are incredibly confusing. How do we slowly repair this is incredibly confusing. Finding out that they actually missed you is confusing. And then when this all happens, you got to stick to the plan. Okay? Because I see so many people.
Meaning what? You got to stick to the plan. What plan?
I'm gonna. That's a.
All right.
Well, let's get to that. It's important.
Okay.
Meaning that when they do reach out to you, you have to stay disciplined. Just as you stayed disciplined by not reaching out to them, you need to stay disciplined in your interactions with them. I hear people be like, I haven't heard from my ex for 5 months, and then he started messaging me for 6 hours, and now he doesn't want to message me again. Well, that's because when they reached out, you didn't send a couple messages and suggest getting together. You know, you really want to get together. You don't want to give away everything that you've been doing the last several months away. You want to get with this person in person and try and have a good time to see where they're at, to create the attraction in person.
And what you don't do is jump up and down and say, I've missed you so much, I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
You don't want to say that.
And that's why the emotional work is so important, because you can think in your mind, yes, I'm ready for that moment. I cannot wait until they text me. But you really do have to do that introspection and that reflection on the relationship to be prepared for whatever your ex might respond to you.
But don't get all excited.
Yeah, you have to stay disciplined. And that is very challenging for a lot of people. They hear from their ex and they just completely forget everything they've been hearing, and just they spill their guts.
It's easy to have happen.
Right.
But you can't do it,
Can't do it.
because if you do, they're going to think, oh, I still got this person.
That's right.
And before you know it, they're ghosting you again. Right?
Yep.
You know, if you sit there messaging them a whole bunch of times and you're giving them everything they've been wondering, now they just disappear.
They're satiated in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They found out what they needed to know somehow.
I still got this person.
Yeah.
I'm no longer afraid of losing
As
them.
far as you're concerned, you're doing just fine without them.
Yep.
Okay? And that is what you want to leave them with.
Yeah, exactly.
right.
It's really important.
Yeah. I'm doing just fine without you.
Yep. Not in a mean way or anything like that.
No.
Just in a way that exhibits some confidence.
Right.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
all of this can be so confusing to go through. We know it. That's why we're here. We'll talk you through it. If you want to get our help coaching or with coaching, you could go to my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Margaret is available for Skype coaching.
Yes, I'm available. If you think I can be helpful, please sign up.
She's always helpful. And of course, Coach Victoria is coaching now.
Yes, I'm looking forward to speaking with you.
And she's great too. So
Yes, she is.
just click on Victoria on the top of the website to do that. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.